Morning, everyone. Meteorologist Bill Rentschler in the 1011 Now streaming studio. Hope everyone's having a nice Thursday morning. Couple things we want to talk about today. Really not much going to be going on for us in the forecast for us really through the rest of the week, into the weekend, and even into early next week. Again, quiet forecast conditions expected across much of the area. But again, that doesn't mean we don't have some things going on. It's Thursday. That means we're going to talk drought monitor, and again, continue to see drought conditions expand across the state. And again, the big weather headline, again, doesn't matter where you go right now, is going to be Hurricane Helene readying to make landfall likely late this evening across the Florida peninsula down going to be near Tallahassee. Going to be bringing some significant impacts to the Florida coast and down to areas in the southeast, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute, though. But we're going to start with a look at the drought monitor. This is a look at what we had last week that was released, and again, basically every week over the past 6 or 7 weeks, we've seen drought conditions slowly kind of continue to expand. So again, this is what we had last week, and again, more of the same. We had hoped to see some rain last weekend that really would have put at least a little bit of a dent in our drought conditions. We did not end up seeing that, and so with the latest drought monitor that was released, again, we continue to see drought conditions expand across the state. So again, have areas of moderate drought that are now covering most of southeastern Nebraska, a good portion of northeastern Nebraska, and then much of north central into northwestern sections of the state. Severe drought creeping into parts of southeastern Nebraska, a spot there in the northeast, across parts of Antelope and Knox County, and then across parts of northwestern Nebraska as well, over into the Nebraska Panhandle. Do still have some spots kind of along the I-80 corridor from near Grand Island out through North Platte and into the southern Panhandle, where we do have drought-free conditions. So again, we still have a little bit of drought-free conditions, but again, things have just progressively gotten a little bit worse. And again, if you look at the change map from last week to this week, we saw most of the change happen across the northern tier of the state, across the northeastern corner of the state, and then out into the Sandhills, Brown and Rock counties, parts of Custer County. Getting one category worse is what we saw with that expansion. So again, I'm going to punch the graphics back in here so you can kind of take a look at those spots. So again, in the northeast, again, we saw that expansion of the moderate drought. Again, same kind of in the north central parts of the state where we saw those areas of moderate drought just get a little bit bigger. So again, we had hoped last week to get some rain that would, again, put a dent in the drought. Didn't see it, and again, the conditions have gotten, just progressively worse. So this is look at the time series for our drought conditions over the course of the past year. You can see at this time over the past several weeks, we've had more drought than we've had at any point in the last year. Again, a lot of it is just dry to moderate drought conditions. Again, this time last year, we did have extreme and exceptional drought conditions, so we're not there yet. But again, forecast over the course of the next week, the long-range outlooks continues to look drier than average. So again, we're obviously getting into the fall season where we don't see as much precipitation to begin with. So again, certainly wouldn't surprise me if we continue to see more expansion of drought and eventually starting to see some of that extreme and maybe exceptional drought begin to creep its way back into the state. But also, like I mentioned, still have about 20% of the state that right now is drought-free. If you look at the national map, many areas under the U.S. under some sort of drought conditions. Again, keep an eye there on the southeast, especially parts of Georgia, Tennessee, into Kentucky, and even up into parts of Indiana and Ohio. Those are the areas that likely are going to see quite a bit of moisture as we head over the next several days thanks to Hurricane Helene. So again, hopefully, while we don't like to see some of the significant impacts that we are going to see with Hurricane Helene, we will likely see some reduction in the drought conditions in those areas. Certainly don't like to see all the moisture that those areas will likely see all at once, but that's just kind of the way it happens sometimes. If you look at the national change, again, you see across parts of Kansas, Oklahoma, much of Missouri, many areas did see improvement in the drought, and those are the areas that did see the rain this last weekend that we were hoping to see. And again, it did the thing that we thought it would do, and that was put a little bit of a dent in the drought. But again, it was unfortunately just down to our south, and again, we missed out on some of that beneficial moisture. So if we look at the time series nationally for the drought conditions, again, more drought now than we've had at any time in the last year. Still have about a quarter of the country that right now is drought-free, and again, very small percentages of exceptional drought or extreme drought, just about 3% between the two, those two categories. of the country under exceptional or extreme drought. So that's the drought monitor. Again, if we check out your weather headlines, again, continues to be headlined by the above average temperatures that we are going to be seeing over the course of the next several days into the weekend. Brief cool down as we head into early next week, but again, the long range continues to trend warmer than average and drier than average. And then again, as I mentioned, we're going to continue to track Hurricane Helene as it gets ready to make landfall later today. Right now in Lincoln, about 10 minutes past the top of the hour. It's 56 at the airport and here in Midtown Lincoln. Calm wind being reported. Dew points are in the upper 40s. Temperatures across the Lincoln Metro are in the generally low 50s to low 60s. Again, here at the studio, our Tempest weather station at the studio, it's right at 60 degrees. 58 at my place, 64 at my parents' place down in southeast Lincoln. Temperatures across the state, anywhere from the low 50s to the low 60s. Right now it's 62 in Grand Island. 54 in Alliance, 52 degrees in Wayne. Dew point temperatures, again, remain dry in the 40s to right around 50 degrees. So, again, dew points over the course of the next several days. Humidity over the next several days. It will tick up just a little bit, but continue to be basically a non-issue for us over the course of the next week or so. Winds generally out of the south right now, a little bit stronger as you head across the western third of the state at 5 to 15 miles an hour. I think we'll see a little bit more wind today than what we saw yesterday. High pressure slides off to our east, so again, the southerly breeze will likely be impacting the state today. 5 to 15, I think 10 to 20 miles an hour at times. I think strongest winds will be across central and western sections of the state through the day today. Satellite and radar picture looks like this. Again, basically the way it's looked over the past several days, really nothing going on. If you look at the visible satellite imagery, again, you can see, don't think there's a single cloud across the entire state of North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, and Colorado. There's a few high clouds in the west, Wyoming, a few high clouds in the west. So again, really not a whole lot happening right now. If we look at the mesoscale, again, visible satellite imagery, we can look at the high resolution 1 minute imagery. This is Hurricane Helene, right now churning in the Gulf of Mexico, again continuing to intensify. Don't quite see a clearly defined eye just yet with Helene, but that likely will be coming as we head through the day today. So back to the satellite radar imagery again, quiet across the state, quiet across the region. You zoom out, look at a national view, we can see much more active weather across the southeast. A rain event happening out ahead of Helene across much of Florida, across much of Georgia, South Carolina, western North Carolina, into the western Virginia, into West Virginia. So again, a lot of rain currently falling in those areas on top of the additional rain that's going to be falling as Helene continues to surge northward. So again, there's going to be flooding concerns. There's going to be flash flooding concerns. There's going to be severe weather threat concerns across the southeast as we head over the next several days. So again, a pretty significant event unfolding for these areas as we head over the course of the next 48 to 72 hours or so. So again, if we zoom in on Helene, starting to see more of the radar fill in as it gets closer to landfall, and the radars can actually pick up some of the rain and precipitation associated with Helene. Again, but you can see the center of that circulation is almost just due west of the Florida Keys right now. And again, combined with upper level low that's currently across parts of the southeast, there's going to be something that's called the Fujiwara effect. Again, where you kind of have these low pressure systems that kind of almost dance with each other. And that's what's going to kind of help slingshot Helene northward, eventually into kind of the Big Bend area towards the Florida panhandle. Again, looks like, again, near Tallahassee, again, right on the coast there near Tallahassee is where Helene could potentially make landfall. And again, we're going to see some pretty catastrophic effects with Helene. So if we look at the latest, again, information from the National Hurricane Center, again, Category 2 right now, moving to the northeast at around 12 miles an hour, winds sustained at 100 miles an hour with wind gusts as high as 115 miles an hour. And as we look at the forecast cone here, again, keep in mind the forecast cone, the center of the storm can track anywhere within the center or anywhere within the forecast cone. The size of the storm itself and the impacts of the storm itself will be felt much wider than what the forecast cone is. And so, again, you actually have storm surge warnings across the entire western seaboard of Florida, again, from the Keys into the Tampa and St. Pete area, and then, again, up into the Big Bend area. So, again, areas in red there have the hurricane warning. Areas in pink have the hurricane watch. Areas in a little bit of the darker orange are tropical storm warnings. So, again, tropical storm force winds and, again, tropical storm warnings in place, again, across the southeastern Florida coast, southwestern Florida coast, and then all along the eastern seaboard, again, across Florida, Georgia, and up into South Carolina. Because, again, it's that front right quadrant of the hurricane that usually does the most significant damage and has the most significant impacts, because that is where you see a combination of, again, at the highest storm surge, some of the strongest winds, and, again, some of the most intense rainfall, and, again, highest severe weather potential. In fact, I want to punch up here. Again, this is the storm surge forecast, the peak storm surge forecast for Helene. And again, you can kind of see in that Big Bend area, they're expecting anywhere of 10 to 20 feet of storm surge. And I really do think Governor DeSantis, in one of his press conferences yesterday, he said it fairly well. You can kind of hide from the wind and you can shelter from the wind, but you have to run from the water. Again, when you have 10 to 20 feet of storm surge, it's going to inundate land miles inward from the coast, and again, do really some catastrophic impacts to those areas. So again, that's certainly again, something we're going to keep a close eye on here over the next 24 hours as Helene gets ready to make landfall. Again, you can see making landfall likely late Thursday evening, maybe early into the overnight hours Friday morning. And again, right now, National Hurricane Center forecast has Helene making a landfall as a Category 3. It was Category 4 yesterday, so again, we're somewhere in that 3 to 4 range right now. But again, regardless of the category is just the wind speeds. Again, most of the significant impacts are going to be the storm surge and the flooding rains and the severe weather that we see on top of it, the tornado potential and all the rest of it that goes with it. So there's going to be, again, some fairly significant impacts across much of the Florida coast, and then even inward into parts of Georgia, Tennessee, Carolinas, the mountain areas up there could be dealing with flooding and flash flooding. So a lot to talk about as you talk about Helene. So again, then it makes landfall and then kind of cuts right across central Georgia, moves up into parts of Tennessee, and then kind of twirls around there across parts of western Kentucky and western Tennessee as we head towards the weekend. But again, rain will surge northward again into parts of Ohio, Indiana, Illinois. Again, we'll keep an eye on Indiana. Again, West Lafayette could see some rain with Helene as we head, certainly I think as we head into the day Friday, Saturday as well. Right now, again, some of the long-range models have some moisture in the area as the Huskers take to West Lafayette. Again, Purdue game kickoff is at 11 a.m. Saturday. Could be some rain in the area. I think it would be more just kind of some off-and-on showers possible, not necessarily significant moisture that could impact the rain, but impact the game. But certainly some rain and wet conditions are possible in West Lafayette and Ross-Ade Stadium for that game again this weekend. So we'll keep an eye on it. So if you look at the weather alerts, there's a lot more happening than what we were talking about earlier this week. We have red flag warnings again for the dry and breezy conditions expected across parts of Wyoming, Montana, into South Dakota. We have some heat advisory or heat alerts, heat-related alerts across parts of the desert Southwest. You have flood watches that basically cover the entire state of Tennessee. You can't see it, but they're there. Again, that basically cover the entire state of Georgia, again, into parts of Florida. We already have tornado watches that are in place for parts of the Carolinas, Georgia, and much of the southern half of Florida to go along with all the tropical alerts that you see in more of the red colors there between tropical storm warnings, hurricane warnings, and all the rest of it. So again, there's a lot more going on in terms of our weather alerts today than we've had over the past several days. Back here at home, if we check out Skycast through the day today, again, really not expecting much. Our weather will continue to be very quiet. Sunny skies, dry conditions as we head through our Thursday into the day on Friday. You can start to see, again, that moisture from Helene surge northward, again, mainly affecting areas to our south and over to our east, but again, a pretty good swath of rain stretching across Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, into parts of southeast Missouri, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, As you head through the day on Friday, rain will continue to kind of spin through those areas. It will be heavy at times. We could see some high cloud cover kind of drift into parts of eastern Nebraska, but really that's just about it. Otherwise, it's another sunny and dry day across much of the 10-11 coverage area as we head through the day on Friday into Saturday. Again, Saturday morning, 7 a.m. This is our in-house model. Again, has rain across parts of Indiana. Again, West Lafayette is kind of east or west central Indiana. So again, could be some rain in the area Saturday morning, and then through the day on Saturday, kind of some scattered off and on showers are going to be possible. Going to kickoff is at 11 a.m. On Saturday, and again, rain in the area at least, and continuing through the day on Saturday. So if you're traveling to Indiana for the game, keep the rain gear handy, again, with that remnant hurricane still in the area. So the 7-day precipitation potential, again, obviously highest, again, stretching from the Florida, Big Bend region up through Georgia, into Tennessee, Kentucky, parts of Arkansas, southeast Missouri. Again, they could see, again, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches of rain. Some of the higher rainfall amounts expected with Helene there in Florida could be as high as 10 inches of rain. Again, keep in mind that's on top of maybe 10 to 15 feet of storm surge, winds of 100 miles an hour or more. So again, it's pretty devastating impacts, again, especially right where Helene makes landfall. If you zoom in again here at home, no moisture expected as we get ready to finish September and begin October. And again, that's not just us. It's, again, much of Iowa, Kansas, the Dakotas, Wyoming, Colorado. Again, really, you get west of the Missouri River, and there's really not much moisture expected over the course of the next week. Severe weather outlook today, again, is down centered across Florida and the southeast with Helene. Slight and enhanced risk for severe weather across some of those areas in the yellow and the orange. Green is the marginal risk. And then some general thunderstorms possible as you head across parts of Alabama, Tennessee, and then up into parts of New England. Here at home, not expecting any severe weather. Same can be said for the day tomorrow and for the day on your Saturday as well. As far as temperatures today, it is going to be hot, especially in parts of western Nebraska where temperatures could threaten triple digits. In Chadron, Scottsbluff, Alliance, they're going to be in the mid to upper 90s. Most of the 10-11 coverage area, though, we're looking at anywhere from low 80s to low 90s for the day today. So, again, these numbers are, 5 to 10 degrees above, actually 5 to 15 degrees above average for this time of year. Lows into Friday morning, upper 40s to low 50s. Highs on Friday will be cooler in the west, but still we're looking at above average temperatures, generally in the low 80s to right around 90 from east to west across the state. Saturday morning lows, again, upper 40s, low 50s for most of us. Saturday afternoon highs staying above average, kind of copy and paste back into the mid and upper 80s, low 90s across the state. Sunday morning, lower to middle 50s, so a few degrees warmer. And then Sunday afternoon, again, we're looking at mid 80s to low to mid 90s from east to west across the state. 7-day forecast in Lincoln looks like this. Again, above average temperatures headline the extended forecast. Tuesday is the exception, where we will briefly see a little bit more seasonal temperatures, and by Tuesday, 72 is close to where we should be for early October. But it's a brief cool down. Temperatures Wednesday back to the upper 70s. That's back above average. And you go past Wednesday, and temperatures do look like they continue to be above average into the lower 80s. So as you look at that 10-day forecast for select cities across the state, again, you can see warm through the rest of the week, into the weekend, into Monday. Tuesday is the brief cool down, but again, it warms right back up for Wednesday through much of the work week and into the weekend next week as well. If you look at the precipitation chances, again, don't really like to see this. Again, zeros basically across the board for the entire state for the next 10 days. Really not expecting anything in terms of any meaningful moisture in the short term across the area. Long-term forecast, again, from the Climate Prediction Center, this is October 3rd through October 9th, continues to favor above-average conditions across much of the central part of the country, and again, unfortunately, continues to favor drier-than-average conditions across the country, the middle part of the country as well. So again, really no change in the weather. Again, feeling a little bit like a broken record. Warm, dry, again, above average, really headlines the forecast for us over the next week to 2 weeks. Again, but the big story is obviously going to be Helene when it comes to the weather over the next, 48 to 72 hours or so. Some pretty significant impacts expected, especially, again, the Florida, Big Bend area into the Florida Peninsula, again, Tallahassee area, 10 to 15 feet of storm surge, 8 to 12 inches of rain, winds over 100 miles an hour. Are going to be some pretty significant impacts for those folks in those areas. So again, we'll keep you up to date with the latest. Again, so make sure you keep it tuned to 1011 both on air and online for all of your latest headlines. So appreciate everyone for tuning in and watching as always. Again, until next time, hope everyone has a nice Thursday. Hope everyone has a nice weekend.